What you are sensing right now is not coincidence, malfunction, or delay. It is recognition arriving faster than the mind can label it. The final phase does not announce itself with fireworks or certainty, it announces itself through subtle pressure, through the feeling that something fundamental has already shifted even if nothing external has resolved yet. This is how alignment feels before the mind catches up. You are not standing at the edge of something that might happen. You are already inside it. Being chosen has nothing to do with worthiness, morality, intelligence, or effort. There is no hierarchy selecting individuals from above. What is happening is resonance. When your emotional field stabilizes beyond a certain threshold, when your nervous system can hold stillness without panic and uncertainty without collapse, reality responds differently. Not because you demanded it, but because you can now receive it. The field does not reward striving. It mirrors coherence. This is the law. That is why the sensations you are experiencing may feel unfamiliar. A quiet urgency without anxiety. A sense of ending without grief. A pressure to let go without knowing what replaces it. These are not signs that something is wrong. They are confirmation that an old identity has reached its limit of usefulness. The final phase begins when forcing stops working, not because you failed, but because you no longer need it. Notice how effort feels heavier now. How chasing clarity creates more fog. How control produces resistance instead of safety. This is not punishment. It is refinement. Reality is withdrawing responsiveness from outdated methods so that recognition can take its place. When identity shifts, mechanics must follow. The field always reorganizes around the most honest signal. Emotion is that signal. And yours is changing. This is why it feels personal. Not special, but precise. The field is not speaking to everyone in the same way because not everyone is emitting the same frequency. You are not ahead of others. You are simply aligned with a different phase. Timelines are not linear. They are selected. And selection happens through being, not doing. If you are waiting for proof before relaxing, you will miss the moment. Proof comes after recognition, not before. The invitation of this phase is subtle and absolute. Stop negotiating with the past, stop preparing for a future version of yourself, and inhabit the coherence that is already here. The shift does not require permission. It requires presence. This is the moment where you stop asking whether this is real and start noticing how deeply familiar it feels. Like remembering something you never learned. Like returning to a posture you forgot you could hold. Calm. Open. Unforced. This is not becoming. This is arrival. If you feel the resonance of this recognition, make it tangible. Subscribe now as an energetic commitment to remain within this frequency, not as a habit, but as a declaration that you are ready to stay aligned with what has already begun. What you are interpreting as stagnation is not a wall. It is a signal that the channel you used to move through no longer matches your frequency. When the outer world stops responding, the conditioned reflex is self-blame. You assume you missed something, didn't try hard enough, or failed to apply the correct strategy. But reality does not withhold response as punishment. It withdraws responsiveness when an identity has expired. The world you knew was calibrated to who you were being. It responded to effort, urgency, proving, and persistence because those were the signals you were transmitting. Now those same signals produce silence. Not because they are wrong in principle, but because they are no longer true. The field does not respond to what you repeat out of habit. It responds to what is coherent now. This is why pushing harder feels strangely ineffective. Why repeating old rituals produces diminishing returns. Why solutions that once worked feel hollow. You are not blocked. You are incompatible with the version of reality that required that identity. The lack of response is guidance, not rejection. It is reality saying, quietly and consistently, that you have outgrown the interface you are trying to use. Resistance appears when there is misalignment between who you are being and what you are attempting to access. It is not an enemy. It is a translator. When resistance shows up, it is pointing directly at an outdated posture. A role you are still playing. A version of yourself that once served you but now distorts the signal. The field cannot meet you there anymore because you are no longer there. Notice how effort now feels tense instead of empowering. How motivation feels brittle instead of alive. How certainty collapses when you try to convince instead of recognize. These sensations are not warnings to retreat. They are invitations to stop pretending that the old world is still meant to answer you. It isn't. And that is not a loss. It is precision. The mind wants to fix this by upgrading strategies. New techniques. Better plans. More discipline. But the issue is not technique. It is identity. Reality is not responding because you are asking from a frequency you no longer occupy. You cannot access a new timeline using an expired self-concept. And you do not need to destroy that self-concept. You only need to stop using it. This is where many people panic. They interpret non-response as emptiness. As if nothing is happening. In truth, something is happening beneath the surface. A recalibration. The field is waiting for a cleaner signal. A signal that is not mixed with effort, proving, or anticipation. A signal that comes from presence rather than pursuit. When you stop taking resistance personally, it becomes informative. It shows you exactly where you are trying to force continuity with a past version of yourself. The moment you see that, the struggle softens. Not because the path is clear yet, but because you stop arguing with the feedback. The old world no longer responds because it has completed its function. It shaped you. It refined you. And now it releases you. The silence you are encountering is not absence. It is space. Space for a different way of moving, a different way of being, a different way of allowing reality to meet you where you actually are. There is a moment that does not announce itself with clarity, yet everything reorganizes around it. It is the moment effort stops producing movement, and instead of panic, something quieter appears. Not relief. Not certainty. Coherence. This is the threshold. It is not crossed by deciding to let go. It is crossed when forcing becomes unsustainable and allowing reveals itself as the only remaining option. Forcing is not the same as action. Forcing is action contaminated by mistrust. It is movement driven by the assumption that without constant input, nothing will happen. It carries tension in the body, urgency in the mind, and a subtle fear underneath the motion. Allowing, by contrast, is not inactivity. It is action that emerges without resistance. It does not feel heroic. It feels obvious. Almost unremarkable. That is how you know you have entered coherence. The collapse of effort often feels like confusion at first. You notice that pushing no longer sharpens focus. It dulls it. Trying harder produces less clarity, not more. This is not regression. It is feedback. The system you are moving within is no longer responding to pressure. It is responding to precision. And precision cannot be forced. It must be recognized. Control operates from the assumption that reality is separate from you and must be managed. Allowing operates from the recognition that reality is responsive and does not need to be chased. Control tightens. Allowing stabilizes. Control seeks reassurance through repetition. Allowing rests in alignment without evidence. This is the distinction that defines the threshold. At this point, many mistake allowing for giving up. But giving up carries collapse and resignation. Allowing carries presence. You are not withdrawing from life. You are withdrawing from resistance. You are no longer attempting to bend the field to match an identity that is already dissolving. Instead, you let the field reorganize around what is already true. The threshold is felt in the body before it is understood by the mind. The breath deepens without instruction. The compulsion to explain softens. Silence becomes tolerable. Even nourishing. These are not signs of disengagement. They are signs that coherence is taking over the role that effort once played. This is also where impatience arises. The mind asks, if I am not forcing, how will anything move? The answer is not conceptual. Movement does not stop at this threshold. It becomes accurate. What falls away are unnecessary actions, compensations, and self-corrections. What remains is response. Clean. Direct. Timely. Allowing does not mean you stop choosing. It means your choices are no longer distorted by fear of lack or delay. They emerge from alignment rather than anticipation. You do not need to monitor them constantly because they are not being propped up by tension. The threshold between forcing and allowing is crossed when you stop trying to make something happen and notice that something already is. Coherence does not feel dramatic. It feels stable. Like standing on ground you did not realize was solid until you stopped bracing for collapse. This is where the shift stops being effortful and starts being inevitable. Before anything appears as circumstance, it appears as feeling. Before outcomes, before events, before timing, there is an emotional state already instructing the field how to respond. This is not metaphor. This is function. Emotion is not something you experience because of life, it is something life experiences through you. And reality answers accordingly. Emotion is a broadcast signal. It does not argue, justify, or explain. It simply transmits. The field does not interpret your reasons. It does not respond to intention layered over contradiction. It responds to the dominant emotional frequency being stabilized in the present moment. This is why words are weak creators. This is why affirmations fail when emotion is misaligned. The field listens to coherence, not language. Expansion and contraction are not moral indicators. They are not telling you that you are good or bad, right or wrong. They are directional. Expansion signals alignment. It feels like openness, relief, clarity, spaciousness, or quiet confidence. Contraction signals misalignment. It feels like urgency, heaviness, tightness, irritation, or pressure. Neither is a problem. Both are guidance. The mistake is reacting to emotion instead of reading it. When contraction appears, the conditioned response is to fix it, suppress it, or override it with positivity. But contraction is not asking to be removed. It is asking to be acknowledged. It is the field informing you that the identity you are inhabiting in that moment is out of sync with your current trajectory. Expansion, likewise, is often distrusted. When ease appears, the mind asks what might go wrong. When clarity arrives, you brace for loss. But expansion is not fragile. It is accurate. It indicates that your emotional state is coherent enough for the field to respond without distortion. This is when reality moves quickly, cleanly, without friction. Emotion does not need to be intense to be powerful. Subtle consistency is far more influential than dramatic spikes. A calm, grounded emotional baseline instructs the field more clearly than bursts of excitement layered over anxiety. The field prefers stable signals. This is why peace often produces faster shifts than desperation ever could. It is also why reacting to circumstances weakens creation. Reaction hands authority to the external. It tells the field that you are being moved rather than moving. Guidance emerges when emotion is observed without resistance. When you stop using emotion as justification for action and start using it as information, coherence increases automatically. You are not meant to eliminate contraction. You are meant to let it redirect you. You are not meant to chase expansion. You are meant to notice what identity produces it. The field is not demanding constant positivity. It is responding to emotional honesty. Clean signals require presence, not performance. This reframes everything. You are no longer at the mercy of events. You are not managing outcomes. You are stabilizing a frequency. When emotion is allowed to be what it is without manipulation, it recalibrates naturally. And when it stabilizes, reality mirrors it with precision. Emotion is not the obstacle. It is the interface. When you learn to read it instead of fight it, the field becomes cooperative. Not because you asked correctly, but because you finally spoke the language it has always understood. Effort moves through time. Recognition moves across it. This is the distinction that changes everything. When you apply effort, you are assuming distance between where you are and what you want. You are reinforcing a gap and then attempting to cross it through repetition, discipline, and endurance. Reality responds slowly to this because you are asking it to confirm separation before resolution. Recognition does the opposite. It collapses distance by dissolving the assumption that the outcome is elsewhere. Recognition is not belief. It is not affirmation. It is identity certainty. It is the moment you stop asking whether something is possible and start behaving as if it is already selected. Not through imitation or force, but through calm internal agreement. The field responds immediately to this because there is no contradiction in the signal. You are not pulling the future toward you. You are standing where it already exists. Effort requires maintenance. It must be repeated, monitored, adjusted, and defended. Recognition stabilizes itself. Once something is recognized as true, it does not need reinforcement. You do not effort to recognize your own name. You do not practice believing in gravity. Recognition settles into the nervous system and reality reorganizes around it without friction. This is why effort often produces delayed or partial results. It is mixed with doubt, urgency, and monitoring. Even when effort is disciplined, it carries a subtle tension that tells the field, this is not stable yet. Recognition carries no such signal. It is quiet. It does not explain itself. It simply is. And because reality mirrors identity, not desire, it responds to recognition with speed. Timelines collapse not because you worked harder, but because you stopped broadcasting uncertainty. When identity becomes clear, multiple possible futures lose relevance. The field no longer needs to test, delay, or refine. It responds to the clearest version available. This is why shifts sometimes feel instant and unearned. They are not rewards. They are reflections. The mind resists this because recognition removes the struggle it has learned to equate with value. If it did not require effort, was it real? But reality does not measure worth through difficulty. It measures coherence. The more coherent the identity, the fewer steps required. This is not bypassing. This is accuracy. You can feel the difference. Effort feels heavy, like pushing against something that may or may not move. Recognition feels still, like standing in a position that does not need justification. There is no rush because there is no chase. There is no proving because there is no doubt. This is why recognition feels relieving before it feels powerful. If something in this understanding resonates, it is because recognition is already occurring. You are not being convinced. You are remembering. When resonance happens, acknowledgement strengthens coherence. If this clarification aligns with what you are sensing, take a moment to like the video. Not as a habit, but as a confirmation of resonance. Recognition deepens when it is acknowledged. This is how timelines collapse. Not through intensity, not through repetition, but through quiet certainty. When identity settles, reality follows immediately. Effort tries to arrive. Recognition has already arrived. The shift does not move at the speed of thought. It moves at the speed of safety. This is why the body, not the mind, becomes the gatekeeper at this stage. You can recognize a new identity instantly, but if the nervous system cannot stabilize it, the timeline cannot lock in. The field responds to what can be held, not what can be imagined. The nervous system is not a limitation. It is an intelligence. Its role is to regulate how much change can be integrated without collapse. When expansion accelerates faster than the body's capacity to remain calm, the system applies brakes. Not to stop the shift, but to protect coherence. This is why fatigue appears. This is why withdrawal happens. This is why rest suddenly feels non-negotiable. These are not signs of regression. They are signs of recalibration. Many misinterpret this phase. They assume something is wrong because motivation dips or social desire fades. But the nervous system is not interested in productivity. It is interested in stability. When identity shifts, the body must update its baseline of safety. Old patterns of vigilance, urgency, and overfunctioning are no longer required, but they do not dissolve instantly. They unwind gradually, through stillness. Fatigue in this phase is not depletion. It is integration. The system is reallocating energy from hypervigilance into regulation. Withdrawal is not avoidance. It is consolidation. You are not disconnecting from life. You are disconnecting from overstimulation that the previous identity depended on to feel real. This is also why forcing progress backfires here. When you push through exhaustion, you signal unsafety. When you override the body's cues, you fragment coherence. The field responds by slowing things down further, not as resistance, but as correction. Safety is the currency of acceleration now. Calm is the new leverage. The body stabilizes timelines by deciding what feels normal. When a new identity no longer triggers threat responses, reality can mirror it consistently. Until then, fluctuations occur. Not because the shift is unstable, but because the system is learning that stability does not require control. This learning cannot be rushed. It must be embodied. You may notice heightened sensitivity. Noise, crowds, urgency, even certain conversations feel draining. This is not fragility. It is discernment emerging at the somatic level. The nervous system is selecting coherence over stimulation. It is choosing environments and rhythms that support integration rather than performance. The most powerful thing you can do here is trust the body's pacing. Allow rest without guilt. Allow silence without interpretation. Allow simplicity without explanation. These are not pauses in the shift. They are how the shift anchors itself into form. Readiness at this stage is not mental agreement. It is somatic consent. It is the body saying, I can hold this now. When that consent arrives, movement resumes naturally, without strain. If you feel this recognition settling in your system, acknowledge it. Not silently, but outwardly. Comment with the declaration, I am ready. Not as a request, but as a signal. The body responds to what is named calmly. And when the body agrees, the field follows. Before control dissolves, it tightens. Before surrender stabilizes, it feels like loss. This is the paradox that makes letting go feel threatening. The mind equates power with grip, direction, and prediction. It believes that if you are not steering, you are drifting. But what is actually dissolving here is not power. It is the illusion that power was ever located in force. Letting go feels like losing power because the identity that relied on control is being retired. Control was never authority. It was compensation. It emerged when safety felt conditional and certainty had to be manufactured. Over time, it became familiar. Comfortable, even. But familiarity is not truth. And as coherence increases, control begins to feel heavy because it no longer matches your frequency. Allowing is not absence of direction. It is direction without resistance. It is authority without tension. When you allow, you are not relinquishing influence. You are relinquishing distortion. You stop trying to manage outcomes from fear and start letting alignment determine movement. This is not weakness. It is precision. The fear around surrender comes from misunderstanding what is being released. You are not letting go of discernment. You are letting go of overcorrection. You are not releasing choice. You are releasing compulsive monitoring. True authority does not need to hover. It does not need to micromanage reality into compliance. It operates from internal agreement rather than external enforcement. Control asks, how do I make this happen? Allowing asks, what is already true here? Control is future-oriented, always preparing for something that might go wrong. Allowing is present-oriented, responsive rather than anticipatory. Control exhausts the system. Allowing stabilizes it. This is why allowing feels unfamiliar at first. The nervous system is unlearning a pattern it once depended on. You may notice discomfort when you stop pushing. A sense of vulnerability. A fear that things will fall apart if you do not intervene. But observe closely. What actually begins to happen is clarity. Choices simplify. Signals sharpen. The noise created by constant management fades, revealing an intelligence that was always operating beneath the effort. Letting go is not passive waiting. It is active trust in coherence. It is the decision to stop interfering with alignment once it is recognized. This is why allowing feels like relief after it feels like risk. The body relaxes. The breath deepens. The compulsion to explain diminishes. These are not signs of disengagement. They are signs of authority returning to its rightful place. Power that depends on control must constantly defend itself. Power that comes from alignment does not need defense. It is self-validating. It does not rush because it is not afraid of absence. It does not grip because it trusts response. When you allow, you are not stepping back from life. You are stepping out of the way of what is already moving through you. The fear that arises is simply the echo of an identity realizing it is no longer required. And on the other side of that fear is not chaos, but calm command. Not by forcing, but by allowing. Contrast was never meant to be endured indefinitely. It was meant to be read. When difficulty appears, the conditioned response is to assume something has gone wrong or that you are being tested. But contrast is not a sentence. It is a signal amplifier. It sharpens perception by highlighting what is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. Contrast exists to create clarity, not suffering. It brings edges into focus. It reveals where identity, expectation, or attachment is out of sync with your current frequency. Without contrast, refinement would be vague. Desire would be unfocused. Alignment would be accidental. Contrast makes alignment precise. The problem is not contrast itself. The problem is repetition without awareness. When contrast is misunderstood, it becomes cyclical. The same patterns replay, the same lessons reappear, and the experience begins to feel punitive. But reality does not punish. It repeats only when the signal has not yet been integrated. Once awareness arrives, repetition is no longer necessary. Contrast is most intense when identity is unclear. The field uses friction to highlight distortion. This is not cruelty. It is efficiency. The sharper the contrast, the clearer the information. When something feels unbearable, it is not asking you to endure longer. It is asking you to see more honestly. Awareness collapses the need for suffering because it completes the function of contrast. The moment you recognize what an experience is revealing about your alignment, its job is done. The field does not need to escalate. It does not need to repeat. It moves on. Suffering only continues when contrast is resisted, personalized, or moralized. Contrast is not telling you that you are behind. It is showing you where precision is available. It is not saying you must change everything. It is pointing to the specific place where coherence can increase. This is why contrast often appears just before significant shifts. It refines the signal so the next phase can stabilize cleanly. You are not meant to transcend contrast by avoiding it. You transcend it by understanding it. When you stop asking why this is happening to me and start asking what this is clarifying, the emotional charge changes. The experience softens. Not because circumstances instantly resolve, but because the struggle against them dissolves. Contrast also sharpens discernment. It teaches you what no longer fits without requiring intellectual analysis. The body knows before the mind. The contraction you feel is not punishment. It is information. When you listen instead of resist, contrast becomes brief, surgical, precise. This is how suffering ends without bypassing. Not by pretending difficulty is positive, but by recognizing its function. Once the function is fulfilled, the experience has no reason to continue. Reality is economical. It does not waste energy on unnecessary lessons. Contrast is not a detour. It is the alignment tool that ensures you do not drift unconsciously into outdated versions of yourself. When awareness is present, contrast refines instead of wounds. It sharpens instead of scars. And once refinement is complete, the field releases it naturally. Nothing here was meant to break you. It was meant to tune you. The past does not exist as time. It exists as agreement. Memory is not a record of what happened, it is a signal you continue to transmit. Every time you revisit a narrative, justify an identity, or explain yourself through what was, you are not remembering. You are negotiating continuity. And timelines respond to continuity far more than intention. Negotiating with the past looks subtle. It sounds like this is just how I am, this is why things take time, this is what always happens to me. These are not observations. They are contracts. Each repetition reaffirms an identity that the field is still obligated to reflect. Not because it wants to trap you, but because it mirrors consistency with precision. Memory binds timelines by stabilizing expectation. When the past is referenced emotionally, not neutrally, it becomes present instruction. The body responds as if the event is still active. The field responds as if the agreement is still valid. This is why insight alone does not free you. Insight without presence keeps the contract alive. Creation happens only now because only now can identity be changed without resistance. The present moment is not a philosophical idea. It is the only point where signal can update. When you are fully present, the past has no leverage. Not because it is denied, but because it is no longer fed. Presence dissolves old agreements by withdrawing emotional investment. You stop arguing with memory. You stop correcting it. You stop using it as reference. And in that absence of negotiation, the field recalibrates. Not dramatically. Quietly. Efficiently. Agreements dissolve when they are no longer reinforced. This does not require forgetting. It requires neutrality. When a memory arises and no longer contracts the body, it has lost its binding power. It becomes information rather than instruction. The timeline attached to it collapses naturally because there is no signal sustaining it. The mind often resists this because the past feels like proof. Proof of caution. Proof of limitation. Proof of identity. But proof is only relevant if you are still applying for permission. Presence does not need proof. It does not justify itself. It simply operates. When you stop negotiating with the past, you do not lose wisdom. You lose weight. The effort of maintaining continuity relaxes. Energy returns. Options widen. Not because the future opens, but because the present stops being filtered. Notice how often decisions are made to avoid repeating something rather than to express what is true now. That avoidance is still allegiance. It keeps the old timeline active. The moment you choose from presence instead of prevention, the signal changes. The present moment is not fragile. It does not need to be protected from memory. It only needs to be occupied. When you are here fully, identity updates automatically. And when identity updates, the field follows without negotiation. You do not need to confront the past. You need to stop consulting it. The moment you do, creation returns to its only active location. Here. Before timelines can be understood, one assumption must dissolve, that you move toward them. You do not. Timelines arrange themselves around who you are being. They are not destinations earned through effort or reached through endurance. They are reflections that respond automatically to identity, the same way a mirror responds to posture. A timeline is not a future event waiting to happen. It is a pattern of probability that becomes visible when an identity stabilizes. The moment identity changes, the available timelines reorganize. No announcement is made. No transition is required. Reality simply begins responding differently because it is now matching a different signal. This is why chasing outcomes rarely works. When you chase, you affirm that what you want exists outside of you. That affirmation selects a timeline where distance is necessary. Effort reinforces separation. Identity resolves it. The field does not ask what you are trying to get. It reflects what you are consistently being. Identity is not personality. It is not preference or history. It is the set point your system returns to when nothing is happening. It is how you expect reality to respond when you are not managing it. That expectation, often unspoken and unexamined, is the selector. Timelines obey it with precision. When identity is unstable, multiple timelines flicker. Inconsistency appears. Progress feels intermittent. This is not punishment. It is feedback. The field mirrors instability with variation. When identity stabilizes, response becomes consistent. The same actions produce different results because the signal beneath them has changed. This is also why dramatic effort often produces minimal change, while subtle identity shifts produce immediate external rearrangement. Reality is not impressed by intensity. It is calibrated to coherence. When who you are being no longer contradicts what you are available for, timelines collapse into alignment without resistance. You do not need to visualize timelines. You do not need to choose them consciously. Identity selection is automatic. The system does not wait for instructions. It responds to frequency. When frequency stabilizes, selection occurs. This is not mystical. It is mechanical. But it feels profound because it removes struggle. Many people believe they are stuck between timelines. In truth, they are oscillating between identities. Each oscillation produces mixed signals. The field responds accordingly. When oscillation ends, not through force but through recognition, the field locks in. Movement resumes. Not because something new was added, but because contradiction was removed. This reframes responsibility without blame. You are not required to fix circumstances. You are invited to notice who you are being while interacting with them. The moment identity shifts, circumstances follow. Not as reward, but as reflection. Timelines are not upgraded by effort. They are accessed by alignment. When you stop trying to move reality and allow reality to move with you, selection becomes effortless. You do not climb into a new future. You occupy a new position in the present, and the future reorganizes around it. This is why the shift feels internal before it becomes visible. Identity always changes first. Reality simply confirms it. The idea of not being ready feels responsible, sensible, patient. But beneath its calm language, it functions as delay. Readiness is not a neutral assessment. It is a protective concept the ego uses to postpone identity change without appearing resistant. It sounds wise, but it keeps recognition at arm's length. Readiness implies that something is missing. More clarity. More healing. More proof. More stability. It frames alignment as a future condition rather than a present state. And as long as readiness is projected forward, identity remains unchanged. The field responds accordingly. Delay is not imposed. It is selected. The ego prefers readiness because readiness preserves continuity. It allows the current identity to remain intact while appearing cooperative. It says yes, but not yet. It agrees in principle while refusing in practice. This is not sabotage. It is self-protection. Identity does not dissolve easily. It negotiates. Recognition bypasses this negotiation entirely. Recognition does not ask if you are ready. It observes what is already true. The moment recognition occurs, readiness becomes irrelevant. You do not prepare to recognize something. You either see it or you don't. And once seen, you cannot unsee it. This is why recognition feels disruptive. It removes the buffer of preparation. It collapses the timeline that readiness depended on. The ego resists this because recognition demands immediate reorientation. There is no gradual acclimation. Identity updates in real time. The field responds just as quickly. Many wait for confidence before allowing recognition. But confidence is a byproduct, not a prerequisite. It arises after coherence stabilizes, not before. Waiting to feel ready is waiting for an effect to precede its cause. The system does not work that way. Notice how often readiness is linked to fear of responsibility. If I am ready, then I must move. If I move, then something might change. Readiness delays movement while maintaining the illusion of control. Recognition removes that illusion. It replaces control with clarity. The myth of not being ready persists because recognition feels irreversible. Once identity shifts, the old timeline loses credibility. The past can no longer justify hesitation. The future can no longer be postponed. This feels like loss to the ego. In truth, it is release. Readiness is not required for alignment. Alignment creates readiness. The moment you stop preparing and start recognizing, the system reorganizes. Energy frees up. Decisions simplify. The question of timing dissolves because presence takes over. You are not waiting to be ready. You are waiting to stop negotiating. The threshold is not crossed by accumulation. It is crossed by agreement. When identity internally agrees with what is already evident, the shift completes itself. Recognition is the only real threshold. Everything else is staging. And the moment you see that, readiness loses its grip, and movement resumes without effort. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the absence of distortion. When stillness appears, the conditioned mind assumes something has stalled. That progress has paused. That momentum has been lost. But the field does not read stillness as inactivity. It reads it as coherence. And coherence is the fastest signal reality can respond to. Action becomes necessary when alignment is unclear. Movement compensates for uncertainty. When you do not trust the signal you are emitting, you attempt to override it with effort. This is compensatory action. It feels urgent, restless, and often justified by logic. But beneath it is a subtle fear that without movement, nothing will happen. Aligned movement feels different. It does not need momentum to validate it. It emerges naturally from stillness. It is specific, efficient, and often minimal. There is no excess. No proving. No strain. Aligned action does not try to create clarity. It expresses it. Stillness sharpens perception. When noise drops, signals become readable. You notice what is necessary and what is habitual. You feel when movement is true and when it is reactive. The field responds quickly here because the instruction is clean. There is no contradiction between intention and identity. Stillness removes interference. This is why action taken too soon often requires correction later. It was generated from incomplete information. Stillness allows the system to gather data somatically, emotionally, energetically. When coherence stabilizes, action becomes inevitable rather than forced. And because it is inevitable, it is effective. The fear around stillness comes from mistaking it for passivity. But passivity is collapse. Stillness is presence. Passivity disengages. Stillness is alert. It is the state from which accurate response emerges. This is why the most significant shifts often occur when nothing appears to be happening. The field responds faster to stillness because stillness does not argue. It does not push or pull. It offers a stable reference point. From that reference, probability organizes efficiently. When you are still, you are readable. When you are frantic, the signal fragments. Compensatory action tries to fix discomfort. Aligned movement follows clarity. One drains energy. The other restores it. You can feel the difference in the body. Compensatory action tightens. Aligned movement relaxes even as it moves. This is the marker. Stillness is not something to maintain. It is something to allow. When the impulse to act quiets, trust it. Not indefinitely, but fully. Let coherence finish forming. Action will arrive without deliberation. It will not ask permission from fear. In this phase, stillness is not delay. It is acceleration without friction. The field reorganizes faster when you stop interfering. Not because you did nothing, but because you finally allowed reality to read you clearly. The shift you are noticing does not belong to you as an experience. It is not something you are passing through on your way to somewhere else. This is the final inversion. The realization that completes the arc. You are not inside the shift. The shift is inside appearance because you are the field it is occurring within. As long as the shift is perceived as an external process, there remains distance. A subject waiting for reality to change. A consciousness observing transformation as something other than itself. That perception was necessary earlier. It allowed orientation. But now it becomes the last veil. Because what is actually reorganizing is not circumstances. It is the recognition of what you are. Consciousness is not located in the body, the mind, or the story. Those are contents moving within it. Consciousness is the space in which all movement appears. When identity settles into this recognition, the idea of shifting timelines collapses. Nothing is moving from here to there. The field is simply revealing different arrangements of itself. This is why the shift feels both intimate and impersonal. It is deeply felt, yet not owned. You are not causing it, directing it, or completing it. You are recognizing that what you call change is consciousness adjusting its own expression. The observer dissolves into the observed. The one waiting disappears into the process. When this recognition stabilizes, effort loses relevance. Who would effort to move what they already are? Control becomes unnecessary. Resistance becomes impossible. Not because nothing happens, but because everything happens without friction. The field no longer meets itself as opposition. This does not make you passive. It makes you precise. Action still occurs. Choice still occurs. But they arise from the same source they affect. There is no longer a sense of pushing against reality or waiting for permission from it. Reality responds to itself through you. This is the reason earlier stages required identity work. They were preparing the system to tolerate this collapse of separation. Without that preparation, this realization would feel disorienting or threatening. Now it feels natural. Familiar. Like something remembered rather than learned. You may notice a subtle relief here. A softening of the need to track progress. A loss of interest in measuring where you are. This is not disengagement. It is completion of the seeking loop. When you recognize yourself as the field, there is nothing left to reach for. The shift does not end here because nothing began. What ends is the idea that you were a fragment navigating a larger system. What remains is the clarity that the system has always been moving as you. Not symbolically. Literally. This recognition does not make you special. It makes you accurate. And accuracy changes everything without trying. The impulse to fix yourself was born from separation. It assumed something was wrong, missing, or incomplete, and that effort could correct it. For a time, that paradigm served a purpose. It created structure. It motivated movement. It gave the mind a role. But now it has become friction. Because what you are recognizing is not a better version of yourself, but the end of the assumption that you were broken. Fixing implies distance between who you are and who you should be. It frames identity as a problem to be solved rather than a coherence to be revealed. And the nervous system feels this implication immediately. Fixing generates tension. It keeps the body in a state of vigilance, always scanning for flaws, always preparing to correct. Recognition does the opposite. It settles the system because it removes the threat. Nothing needs to be fixed because nothing is out of place. What appeared as dysfunction was misalignment. What felt like deficiency was fragmentation. When recognition restores coherence, the system reorganizes naturally. Muscles soften. Breathing deepens. Attention widens. This is not psychological relief. It is physiological confirmation that the threat response has been stood down. Self-improvement assumes a future self that is more acceptable than the present one. It keeps identity in transit. Recognition anchors identity here. It says this is sufficient to move from. Not because everything is perfected, but because nothing is rejected. The nervous system can relax only when it is no longer tasked with becoming safe later. This does not mean growth stops. Growth becomes organic. It emerges from curiosity instead of correction. Movement continues, but without self-judgment. You still refine. You still adjust. But you do not attack yourself in the process. The difference is subtle and profound. One creates exhaustion. The other creates ease. Fixing was an attempt to earn coherence. Recognition restores it by default. When you stop treating yourself as a project, the system stops bracing. Energy that was bound in self-surveillance returns to perception, creativity, and presence. You are no longer managing yourself into alignment. You are allowing alignment to express itself. The relief that comes here can feel unfamiliar. Without the constant pressure to improve, the mind wonders what to do. This is where trust replaces control. You do not need to be driven by dissatisfaction to evolve. Alignment moves on its own. The field responds to coherence, not self-critique. Nothing needs to be fixed because the core was never damaged. It was obscured by strategies that once provided safety. Those strategies are no longer needed. As they dissolve, what remains is not emptiness, but quiet stability. This is not complacency. It is accuracy. And accuracy is what allows the nervous system to finally rest while reality continues to respond. What remains after this transmission is not instruction, but choice. Not a task to maintain, but a frequency to inhabit. You do not carry this forward by remembering words or applying techniques. You remain within it by choosing coherence over urgency, presence over interpretation, and recognition over effort. The shift does not require maintenance. It requires permission. Frequency is not something you hold with discipline. It is something you stop interrupting. When you return to forcing, to proving, to monitoring yourself for correctness, the signal fragments. When you return to stillness, to honesty of feeling, to calm agreement with what is already evident, coherence resumes automatically. Nothing needs to be repaired. Only re-entered. Life will continue to present contrast. Not as a test, but as calibration. When it does, you will know what to do without consulting memory. Expansion will invite you forward. Contraction will ask you to adjust. Neither will demand struggle. The field is no longer trying to get your attention. You are already listening. Staying within this frequency does not mean avoiding emotion or challenge. It means refusing to abandon presence when they appear. It means allowing the nervous system to lead instead of the mind to panic. It means trusting that clarity emerges faster when you do not chase it. You will notice that the need to explain fades. The need to convince disappears. The need to check whether you are doing it right loses relevance. These are signs that identity has stabilized. Reality responds differently to stability. Opportunities arrive without drama. Decisions feel obvious. Movement happens without friction. This frequency is not exclusive. It is available to anyone willing to stop negotiating with themselves. But not everyone will recognize it at the same moment. When you share this without preaching, without urgency, without needing agreement, you act as a clean signal. The field uses that. Continuation is not about staying vigilant. It is about staying honest. When something feels off, you do not correct yourself. You listen. When something feels aligned, you do not rush it. You let it deepen. This is how coherence sustains itself. The final phase is not fragile. It does not collapse because of distraction. It only fades when identity is abandoned. And identity here is simple. You are the field noticing itself. You are presence choosing clarity. You are consciousness allowing reality to respond. If this transmission resonates and you choose to remain within this frequency, make that choice tangible. Subscribe now as a declaration of alignment, not out of habit. And if you know someone who is standing at this same threshold, share this with them. Not to convince, but to allow recognition to arrive where it is ready.